Hello there, fellow curious minds, and welcome to another journey through the fascinating landscape of science. I hope you're settling in comfortably wherever you might be watching this tonight. Maybe you're tucked under a warm blanket, or perhaps you're listening while gazing out at the stars. I'm curious, where are you watching from tonight, and what time is it in your part of the world? Tonight, we're going to explore something truly extraordinary. Something that happens in the quiet spaces between us. In those moments when we feel deeply connected to another person without speaking a single word. We're going to discover the science behind one of our most remarkable abilities as human beings. The ability to feel what others feel, to share in their joy and their pain, to understand their experiences as if they were our own. Have you ever wondered why you wince when you see someone stub their toe? Or why you feel a warm glow when you witness a moment of pure happiness in another person? Why do we yawn when we see someone else yawn? Why do we feel our hearts race when we watch someone else in danger, even in a movie? These aren't just coincidences or learned behaviors. There's something far more profound happening in your brain, something that scientists discovered relatively recently that changed our understanding of what it means to be human. In the quiet corridors of our minds, there exists a remarkable network of cells that act like mirrors, reflecting the actions and emotions of those around us. These are called mirror neurons, and they're the reason you can feel another person's pain, share in their laughter, and understand their emotions without them saying a word. It's as if our brains are constantly reaching out, creating invisible bridges between us and everyone we encounter. Tonight, as we drift through the gentle landscape of neuroscience, we'll discover how these mirror neurons were first found, quite by accident, in a laboratory in Italy. We'll explore how they work, how they help us understand others, and how they form the biological foundation for empathy itself. We'll journey through the science of compassion, understanding how our brains are literally wired to care for one another. This is a story about connection, about the invisible threads that bind us together as human beings. It's about the remarkable fact that when you watch someone smile, your brain responds as if you were smiling too. When you see someone in pain, your brain creates an echo of that pain within you. This isn't just poetry or philosophy, it's biology. It's the very architecture of human understanding. So let's begin this gentle exploration together. Don't worry if you find yourself getting drowsy as we go along, that's perfectly fine. The wonder of science has a way of following us into our dreams, painting our sleep with new understanding and deeper appreciation for the miraculous nature of being human. Let's discover together how our brains create the foundation for our most treasured human experiences: compassion, empathy, and connection. Are you ready to explore the mirror neurons that make us who we are? Let's begin this journey into the beautiful complexity of the human brain, where science meets the poetry of human experience, and where we discover that feeling for others isn't just something we do, it's something we are. Now that we've begun to sense the profound nature of human connection, let's drift deeper into the story of how scientists first discovered these remarkable cells that seem to bridge the gap between minds. Picture, if you will, a laboratory in Parma, Italy, in the early 1990s. The air is filled with the quiet hum of equipment, the soft scratching of pens on paper, and the gentle movements of researchers going about their work, completely unaware that they're about to stumble upon one of the most important discoveries in neuroscience. Dr. Giacomo Rizzolatti and his team were studying something entirely different. They were investigating the motor cortex of macaque monkeys, trying to understand how the brain controls movement. They had placed tiny electrodes in the brains of these monkeys, specifically in an area called F5, which is responsible for hand and mouth movements. When a monkey reached for a peanut, certain neurons would fire, creating electrical patterns that the researchers could hear as little pops and crackles through their speakers. This was standard neuroscience work, mapping the brain's control of movement, understanding how intention becomes action. Day after day, the researchers would listen to the rhythmic firing of neurons, creating detailed maps of how the brain orchestrates the complex dance of reaching, grasping, and manipulating objects. Each neuron seemed to have its own specific role, some firing when the hand opened, others when it closed, still others when the arm extended or retracted. But then something extraordinary happened, something that would change our understanding of the brain forever. During a lunch break, one of the researchers reached for his own food, and suddenly, the speakers crackled to life. The monkey's neurons were firing, but the monkey wasn't moving. It was simply watching the human reach for food. The laboratory fell silent except for the telltale pops and crackles of neural activity. Imagine the confusion in that moment. The neurons that were supposed to fire only when the monkey moved its own hand were responding to someone else's movement. It was as if the monkey's brain was experiencing the researcher's action as its own. This wasn't supposed to happen according to everything they knew about how the brain worked. Motor neurons were supposed to be about motor control, about moving your own body, not about watching others move theirs. The researchers repeated the experiment over and over, with the same astonishing results. When they reached for objects, the monkey's motor neurons fired as if the monkey itself were reaching. When they grasped food, the monkey's grasping neurons activated. When they brought objects to their mouths, the monkey's mouth neurons responded. It was as if the monkey's brain contained a neural copy of the human's actions, a living mirror that reflected every movement back into the monkey's own motor system. What they had discovered were mirror neurons, cells that fire both when an animal performs an action and when it observes another animal performing the same action. It's as if these neurons hold up a mirror to the actions of others, reflecting them back into our own neural experience. When you watch someone pick up a cup, your mirror neurons fire as if you were picking up the cup yourself. When you see someone smile, your mirror neurons respond as if you were smiling. But let's slow down and really understand what this means. Think about your own experience for a moment. When you watch a skilled pianist playing a beautiful piece, do you sometimes feel your own fingers wanting to move along with the music? When you see someone yawn, do you feel that familiar stretching sensation in your own jaw? When you watch a dancer leap across a stage, do you feel a phantom sensation of your own muscles engaging? These aren't just psychological phenomena, they're the result of your mirror neurons creating neural echoes of what you're observing. The discovery was so unexpected that it took years for the scientific community to fully accept it. The idea that neurons could fire in response to observing actions challenged fundamental assumptions about how the brain processes information. The brain, it seemed, wasn't just a command center sending signals to control our own bodies. It was also a sophisticated system for understanding and internally experiencing the actions of others. The traditional view of the brain as an isolated processing unit was giving way to a new understanding of the brain as a deeply social organ, one that was constantly reaching out to connect with and understand other minds. The discovery was so unexpected that it took years for the scientific community to fully accept it. The idea that neurons could fire in response to observing actions challenged fundamental assumptions about how the brain processes information. The brain, it seemed, wasn't just a command center sending signals to control our own bodies. It was also a sophisticated system for understanding and internally experiencing the actions of others. Mirror neurons are found primarily in several regions of the brain, creating a distributed network of understanding that spans multiple areas of neural processing. In humans, they're located in the premotor cortex, the area just in front of the primary motor cortex that plans and prepares movements. Think of this region as the brain's rehearsal space, where actions are mentally practiced before they're physically performed. Your mirror neurons here are constantly running through the motions of actions you observe, creating a kind of neural dress rehearsal of other people's movements. They're also found in the inferior parietal lobule, which helps integrate sensory information from different parts of the body, creating a unified sense of how your body moves through space. When your mirror neurons here fire in response to watching someone else move, they're integrating visual information about their actions with your own internal sense of movement and positioning. It's like having an internal translator that converts what you see into what you might feel if you were doing the same action. Additionally, mirror neurons exist in parts of the superior temporal sulcus, which processes social information and helps us understand the intentions behind other people's actions. This region is particularly interested in biological motion, the kind of movement that comes from living beings rather than mechanical objects. When you watch someone walk, gesture, or express emotions through their body language, this area of your brain is working to understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it. What makes mirror neurons so fascinating is their automatic nature. You don't consciously decide to mirror someone's actions. It happens instantly, below the threshold of awareness. When you see someone reach for a glass of water, your mirror neurons fire within milliseconds, creating a neural simulation of that reaching action in your own brain. It's like having an internal theater where you constantly rehearse and experience the actions of everyone around you, a continuous performance that you're never consciously aware of watching. But mirror neurons don't just respond to any movement. They're remarkably sophisticated in their selectivity, showing preferences that reveal the deep intelligence of the brain's social processing systems. They respond most strongly to goal-directed actions, movements that have intention and purpose behind them. If you see someone reaching toward a cup with the clear intent to pick it up, your mirror neurons will fire strongly, creating a robust internal simulation of that purposeful action. But if you see the same hand movement in the air with no object present, the response is much weaker. These neurons seem to understand not just what someone is doing, but why they're doing it. This selectivity extends to context as well. Your mirror neurons are constantly reading the situation, interpreting actions based on the surrounding environment and circumstances. When you watch someone reach for a cup in a room full of dirty dishes, your mirror neurons fire differently than when you watch the same person reach for a cup on a clean table. In the first case, your brain predicts they're reaching to clean up, perhaps to clear the table or wash the dishes. In the second, it predicts they're reaching to drink, to quench their thirst, or simply enjoy a beverage. Your mirror neurons are constantly making these subtle predictions about others' intentions, creating a rich understanding of not just what people are doing, but what they plan to do next. The more we study mirror neurons, the more we realize they're not just about copying actions. They're about understanding the meaning behind actions. They're part of a sophisticated system that allows us to read the intentions, emotions, and goals of others with remarkable accuracy. When you see someone's face begin to crumple with sadness, your mirror neurons fire as if you were making that same expression, giving you an internal understanding of what that person is feeling. When you watch someone's eyes light up with joy, your mirror neurons create an echo of that happiness within your own neural circuits. This automatic mirroring happens constantly throughout our social interactions, creating a continuous stream of understanding that flows beneath the surface of conscious awareness. When you're having a conversation with someone, your mirror neurons are busy creating neural copies of their gestures, expressions, and movements. You're not consciously aware of this internal simulation, but it's happening continuously, creating a rich, embodied understanding of the person you're interacting with. It's as if your brain is constantly asking, what would it feel like to be this person right now? No. And then creating a neural answer to that question. Think about how this changes our understanding of human connection. When you feel drawn to someone, when you sense that you click with them, part of that connection might be the synchronized firing of your mirror neurons. When you watch someone you care about, your brain is literally experiencing echoes of their actions and emotions. You're not just observing them from the outside, you're simulating their experience from within, creating a bridge between your mind and theirs that operates below the level of conscious thought. The discovery of mirror neurons has opened up entirely new ways of thinking about autism, empathy, language learning, and social development. It's helped us understand why babies are such natural imitators, why we unconsciously mirror the postures of people we like, and why watching someone in pain can be genuinely painful for us too. These neurons seem to be part of evolution's solution to one of the most fundamental challenges of social life. How to understand what's going on in someone else's mind when you can never directly access their thoughts and feelings. Children seem to be born with particularly active mirror neuron systems, which may explain their remarkable ability to learn through imitation. When a baby watches you smile, clap your hands, or make faces, their mirror neurons are firing intensely, creating internal copies of your actions that help them learn to perform the same movements themselves. It's as if nature equipped us with the perfect learning system for acquiring the complex skills needed for social interaction. As we continue our journey through the landscape of mirror neurons, we'll explore how these remarkable cells create the foundation for empathy, how they help us understand others' emotions, and how they drive our compassionate responses to others' suffering. But for now, let's simply marvel at the elegant solution evolution found to the problem of understanding others. In a world where we can never directly access another person's mind, mirror neurons give us the next best thing, a neural simulation that allows us to feel, in some small way, what it's like to be someone else. Rest easy knowing that right now, as you listen to these words, your mirror neurons are quietly working, creating connections and understanding that bind you to every person you encounter. They are the invisible foundation of human society. It's the biological basis for our ability to care for one another, and the reason why, even in our most solitary moments, we're never truly alone. They remind us that understanding others isn't just something we learn to do, it's something we're biologically equipped to do, something that happens automatically whenever we encounter another human being. In the gentle dance of neural firing that occurs whenever we watch someone else move, speak, or express emotion, we find the biological roots of compassion, empathy, and love. As we drift deeper into the gentle currents of understanding, let's explore one of the most profound questions that has puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and scientists for centuries. How do we come to feel what another person feels? How is it that when you see someone stub their toe, you feel a twinge of pain yourself? When you witness a moment of pure joy in another person's face, how does their happiness somehow become your own, even for just a moment? The discovery of mirror neurons has begun to unlock the biological secrets behind this most human of experiences: empathy. Imagine for a moment that you're walking through a park on a peaceful afternoon. The sunlight filters through the leaves, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow on the path before you. Birds are singing softly in the distance, and there's a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers and fresh grass. You see a child playing on the playground, running with the carefree abandon that only children seem to possess. Suddenly, the child trips and falls, scraping their knee on the rough concrete. In that instant, before any conscious thought occurs, something remarkable happens within your brain. You feel something stir within you, immediate response that seems to come from somewhere deeper than thought or analysis. Your heart rate might quicken slightly, your own muscles might tense in sympathy, and you might even feel a phantom sensation in your own knee, as if you could feel an echo of their pain. This isn't imagination or learned behavior. This is your mirror neuron system, creating a neural bridge between your experience and the child's experience, allowing you to feel an echo of their pain within your own body. Scientists have discovered that when we observe someone else experiencing pain, our brains activate many of the same regions that would fire if we were experiencing that pain ourselves. It's as if our nervous system contains a sophisticated empathy circuit, one that allows us to internally simulate the experiences of others with remarkable fidelity and speed. When you watch someone receive an injection at the doctor's office, the pain processing areas of your brain light up in patterns remarkably similar to what would happen if you were receiving that injection yourself. When you see someone accidentally burned by hot coffee, your brain creates a neural representation of that burning sensation, complete with activation in areas responsible for processing heat, pain, and the emotional distress that accompanies sudden injury. You're not just understanding their pain intellectually, analyzing it from a distance like a detached observer. Instead, you're experiencing a version of it neurologically. Your brain creating an internal simulation that gives you genuine insight into what that other person might be feeling. It's as if your nervous system has evolved to be a sophisticated empathy machine, one that can reach across the gap between minds and create genuine understanding through shared neural experience. This empathic response happens remarkably quickly. It's often within the first few hundred milliseconds of observing someone else's experience. Your brain doesn't wait for conscious analysis or rational thought. It doesn't pause to consider whether you should care or whether it's appropriate to respond. Instead, it immediately begins creating an internal simulation of what that other person might be feeling. It's as if evolution equipped us with an instant empathy system, one that operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, but profoundly shapes our emotional responses to others. The mirror neuron system works hand in hand with other brain networks to create this empathic response, forming a complex orchestra of neural activity that transforms observation into felt experience. When you see someone in distress, your mirror neurons fire as if you were making the same facial expression or adopting the same body posture. Simultaneously, your emotional processing centers, particularly an area called the anterior cingulate cortex, activate to create the actual feeling of distress within you. This region is like an emotional translator, converting the neural signals from your mirror neurons into the subjective experience of caring, concern, and emotional resonance. Your insula, a brain region that processes internal bodily sensations and helps create your sense of embodied self-awareness, plays a crucial role in translating these neural signals into the actual felt experience of empathy. When your mirror neurons fire in response to someone else's pain, your insula helps you feel that pain as a real sensation within your own body. It's your insula that creates the visceral quality of empathy, the way that witnessing someone else's suffering can literally make your stomach clench or your heart ache. But empathy through mirror neurons isn't limited to negative experiences. And this is one of the most beautiful aspects of how our brains are designed for connection. When you see someone smile with genuine happiness, the kind of radiant joy that seems to light up their entire face, your mirror neurons fire as if you were smiling too. Your brain's reward centers activate, giving you a taste of their joy, a neural sip of their happiness that can brighten your own mood, even if you were feeling neutral or even slightly down just moments before. When you watch someone laugh, really laugh with the kind of uninhibited mirth that shakes their whole body, your mirror neurons create an internal echo of that laughter. This often leads to the wonderfully contagious nature of laughter itself. The way that genuine amusement spreads through a group like ripples across a pond. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is not to smile when you see someone experiencing pure, uninhibited joy? Have you ever found yourself laughing simply because someone else was laughing, even before you knew what was funny? That's your mirror neuron empathy system at work, creating bridges of shared positive emotion that connect you to the happiness of others. The strength of this empathic response can vary, depending on several fascinating factors that reveal the sophisticated intelligence of our empathy systems. Mirror neurons tend to fire more strongly when we observe people who are similar to us, people we care about, or people we identify with in some way. When you watch a close friend experience pain, your mirror neuron response is typically much stronger than when you observe a stranger experiencing the same discomfort. This isn't a flaw in the system or a sign of selfishness. It's actually an elegant design feature that helps us prioritize our empathic responses toward those who matter most to us. This selectivity makes evolutionary sense. If we responded with equal intensity to everyone's suffering, we would quickly become overwhelmed by empathic distress. Instead, our mirror neuron systems are calibrated to respond most strongly to those within our social circles, those who are most likely to be important to our survival and well-being, and those who are most likely to reciprocate care and support when we need it ourselves. Interestingly, the empathic response created by mirror neurons can be influenced by our own personal experiences in ways that make our empathy more accurate and nuanced. If you've ever broken your arm, watching someone else break their arm will likely trigger a stronger mirror neuron response than if you've never experienced that particular type of injury. To create a more vivid and accurate simulation of what the other person might be experiencing, it's as if our mirror neurons use our personal library of experiences to better understand and empathize with others. The more you've experienced in life, the richer your empathic responses become, because your brain has more material to draw from when creating internal simulations of others' experiences. This suggests that empathy isn't just an automatic response. It's also a skill that can be developed through experience and exposure to different types of human experience. This biological basis of empathy helps explain why certain experiences feel so universally human, why there are moments of connection that seem to transcend cultural, linguistic, and social boundaries. The parent who winces when their child falls, feeling the impact as if it were happening to their own body. The friend who tears up when they see you cry, their own eyes filling with sympathetic tears, before they even know why you're upset. The stranger who reflexively reaches out when they see someone stumble, their own body responding to prevent a fall they're not even experiencing themselves. These aren't just learned social behaviors or cultural conditioning. They're the natural expression of our mirror neuron empathy systems. We're literally wired to care about each other's well-being, equipped with neural circuits that make other people's experiences feel real and important to us. This biological foundation of caring suggests that compassion and concern for others isn't something we have to learn or choose. It's something that emerges naturally from the architecture of our brains. Scientists have found that people with more active mirror neuron systems tend to score higher on measures of empathy and emotional intelligence. They're better at reading others' emotions, picking up on subtle cues and changes in facial expression or body language. They're more responsive to others' distress, more likely to notice when someone is struggling, and more motivated to offer help or comfort. They're also more likely to engage in pro-social helping behaviors, volunteering their time and energy to support others even when there's no direct benefit to themselves. It's as if some people have naturally more sensitive empathy circuits, making them more attuned to the emotional experiences of those around them. These individuals often find themselves drawn to careers in helping professions, becoming nurses, teachers, counselors, or social workers. They're the people others naturally turn to for comfort and understanding. The ones who seem to have an intuitive ability to know what others are feeling and what they need. Sleep peacefully, knowing that you carry within you this remarkable system for understanding and connecting with others. Your mirror neurons are always ready to create bridges of empathy, to help you feel what others feel, and to remind you that in the deepest neurological sense, we truly are all connected. In a world that can sometimes feel divided and disconnected, your mirror neurons are quietly working to weave the threads of understanding and compassion that bind us together as one human family. Creating connections that transcend the boundaries between self and other, turning the experiences of others into shared experiences that remind us of our fundamental unity and interconnectedness. As we continue our gentle journey through the landscape of human connection, let's turn our attention to one of the most remarkable abilities of the human mind: our capacity to read emotions in others with extraordinary accuracy and speed. Think about the last time you looked at someone's face and instantly knew what they were feeling. Perhaps it was a friend whose eyes lit up with excitement, a family member whose expression clouded with worry, or a stranger whose smile didn't quite reach their eyes, revealing hidden sadness beneath a cheerful facade. How is it that we can perform this complex emotional reading so effortlessly, often understanding what someone is feeling before they even speak a word? The answer lies in the intricate dance between our mirror neurons and the complex symphony of facial expressions, body language, and subtle emotional cues that make up human communication. Our faces are perhaps the most sophisticated emotional display systems in the animal kingdom, capable of producing thousands of distinct expressions through the coordinated movement of more than 40 different muscles. Each emotion creates its own unique pattern of muscle activation, its own signature in the landscape of the human face. When you see someone smile, something remarkable happens in your brain that goes far beyond simply recognizing the upward curve of their lips. Your mirror neurons fire as if you were making that same smile yourself, creating an internal simulation of the muscle movements involved in smiling. But this physical mirroring is just the beginning of a much more complex process. Your brain doesn't just copy the mechanics of the smile. It recreates the emotional experience associated with smiling, giving you insight into what that person might be feeling. This process happens with lightning speed, often within the first 100 to 200 milliseconds of seeing an emotional expression. Your visual cortex processes the pattern of facial muscle movements. Your mirror neuron system creates an internal simulation of those movements, and your emotional processing centers translate that simulation into felt understanding. It's as if your brain contains a sophisticated emotion translation system that can convert observed expressions into understood feelings almost instantaneously. But the magic of emotional understanding through mirror neurons extends far beyond just recognizing basic expressions. Consider the subtle differences between different types of smiles. A genuine smile of happiness, what scientists call a Duchenne smile, involves not just the muscles around the mouth, but also the muscles around the eyes, creating those characteristic crinkles that we associate with real joy. A polite or social smile, on the other hand, typically involves only the mouth muscles, leaving the eyes relatively unchanged. Your mirror neurons are remarkably sensitive to these subtle differences. When you see a genuine smile, your mirror neurons fire in a pattern that simulates the full facial expression, including the eye muscle activation, and your brain processes this as authentic happiness. When you see a social smile, your mirror neurons fire differently, creating a simulation that feels somehow incomplete or less emotionally resonant. This is why you can often sense when someone is forcing a smile or putting on a happy face when they're not really feeling happy inside. The same sophisticated analysis happens with every emotion you observe. When you see someone's eyebrows furrow with concentration, your mirror neurons create an internal simulation of that focused state. It's helping you understand that they're thinking hard about something. When you observe the slight downward pull at the corners of someone's mouth that signals disappointment, your mirror neurons fire as if you were making that same expression, giving you an embodied understanding of their emotional state. This emotional mirroring system is so sensitive that it can pick up on microexpressions, fleeting facial movements that last only fractions of a second, but reveal true feelings that someone might be trying to hide. When someone is trying to appear calm but is actually anxious, their face might show tiny flashes of tension around the eyes or mouth. Your mirror neurons can detect and respond to these microexpressions, creating subtle feelings of unease or tension within you that alert you to the fact that something isn't quite right with the other person's emotional state. Body language provides another rich source of emotional information that your mirror neurons process with remarkable sophistication. The way someone holds their shoulders, the tension in their posture, the speed and quality of their movements, all of these physical cues carry emotional information that your mirror neuron system can decode. When you see someone walking with slumped shoulders and a slow, heavy gait, your mirror neurons create an internal simulation of that posture and movement quality, often resulting in you feeling a sense of their sadness or fatigue. Conversely, when you observe someone moving with energy and lightness, their posture upright and their movements quick and purposeful, your mirror neurons simulate that energetic state. It's often making you feel more alert and positive yourself. This is one reason why being around energetic, positive people can be so uplifting. While spending time with depressed or anxious individuals can feel emotionally draining, your mirror neurons are constantly creating internal simulations of the emotional states you observe in others. The voice carries emotional information as well, and your mirror neurons work in coordination with your auditory processing systems to help you understand the feelings behind the words someone speaks. The same sentence can convey completely different emotions depending on the tone, pace, and inflection with which it's delivered. When someone says, "I'm fine," with a tight, strained voice, your mirror neurons help you understand that they're not actually fine at all, even though their words suggest otherwise. Your brain is constantly integrating information from multiple sources: visual cues from facial expressions and body language, auditory cues from voice, tone, and speech patterns, and even subtle environmental cues like personal space and positioning, to create a comprehensive understanding of another person's emotional state. Your mirror neurons serve as the foundation for this complex process of emotional interpretation, creating internal simulations that give you embodied insight into what others are feeling. This emotional understanding system is so sophisticated that it can detect not just what someone is feeling, but how intensely they're feeling it. You can distinguish between mild annoyance and genuine anger, between contentment and ecstatic joy, between nervousness and paralyzing anxiety. Your mirror neurons create graded responses that mirror not just the type of emotion you're observing, but its intensity as well. The cultural context in which emotions are expressed adds another layer of complexity to this process. Different cultures have different rules about emotional expression, different ways of showing feelings, and different meanings attached to particular expressions or gestures. Yet your mirror neuron system is remarkably adaptable, learning to read emotions within whatever cultural context you've grown up in or been exposed to. It's as if your emotional understanding system can be calibrated to the specific emotional language of your social environment. Children are particularly gifted at this kind of emotional learning through mirror neuron activation. From the earliest days of life, babies are constantly watching the faces of their caregivers, their mirror neurons firing in response to every smile, frown, look of surprise, or expression of concern. Through this constant mirroring, children not only learn to recognize emotions in others, but they also learn how to express emotions themselves. The mirror neuron system serves as both an emotion recognition system and an emotion learning system. This explains why children who grow up in emotionally expressive households tend to be better at reading and expressing emotions themselves, while children who grow up in emotionally restricted environments might struggle more with emotional understanding and expression. The mirror neuron system needs rich emotional input to develop its full capacity for understanding and simulating the emotional experiences of others. The development of emotional understanding through mirror neurons continues throughout life. As you encounter new people, new cultures, and new forms of emotional expression, your mirror neuron system continues to learn and adapt. The person who has traveled widely and encountered many different ways of expressing emotion will typically have a more nuanced and sophisticated emotional understanding system than someone who has had more limited exposure to emotional diversity. This emotional understanding ability has profound implications for our relationships and social interactions. When you can accurately read what others are feeling, you can respond more appropriately to their needs. You know when to offer comfort, when to give space, when to celebrate, and when to simply listen. Your mirror neuron-based emotional understanding system serves as a guide for navigating the complex social world of human relationships, but this system can sometimes lead us astray as well. because we're constantly creating internal simulations of others' emotions. We might sometimes project our own emotional experiences onto others, misreading their feelings based on what we would feel in a similar situation. Someone who tends toward anxiety might interpret neutral expressions as worried or stressed, while someone who tends toward optimism might miss signs of distress in others. The mirror neuron system for emotional understanding also explains why spending time with different types of people can have such a profound effect on our own emotional states. When you're surrounded by calm, peaceful people, your mirror neurons constantly simulate calmness and peace, making you feel more relaxed yourself. When you're in an environment full of stress and tension, your mirror neurons create internal simulations of that stress, making you feel tense and anxious, even if nothing in your own life is particularly stressful. This emotional contagion through mirror neuron activation is one of the reasons why choosing your social environment carefully can be so important for your emotional well-being. The people you spend time with aren't just affecting you through their words and actions. They're affecting you at a neurological level through the constant activation of your mirror neuron emotional understanding system. As we rest in this understanding of how deeply we're connected to the emotional experiences of others, consider how remarkable it is that your brain contains such sophisticated systems for reading and understanding emotions. Every day you perform thousands of complex emotional calculations, instantly reading facial expressions, interpreting body language, and understanding the feelings of everyone you encounter. This isn't a learned skill that you had to study and practice. It's a natural expression of your mirror neuron emotional understanding system. Sleep peacefully knowing that you possess this extraordinary ability to understand, connect with the emotional experiences of others. Your mirror neurons are constantly working to bridge the gap between minds, creating understanding and connection through the universal language of emotion. In a world where words can sometimes fail us, where language barriers can separate us, and where misunderstandings can divide us, our mirror neuron emotional understanding system provides a deeper form of communication, one that operates below the level of conscious thought, but connects us all through the shared experience of feeling and being human. As we drift deeper into the quiet waters of understanding, let's explore one of the most profound and sometimes difficult aspects of human connection, our ability to feel the pain of others as if it were our own. This capacity to share in another's suffering is perhaps one of the most remarkable features of the human experience, a testament to how deeply our mirror neuron systems can connect us to the inner worlds of those around us. It's a gift that allows us to offer genuine comfort and understanding, but it's also a burden that can weigh heavily on sensitive hearts. Picture yourself in a hospital waiting room in the soft light of early evening. The air is filled with that particular quietness that comes when people are holding their breath, waiting for news, hoping for the best while preparing for difficult possibilities. You see a woman sitting alone, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes red with unshed tears. Even without knowing her story, something stirs within you. Your chest might feel tight, your own eyes might begin to water, and you might feel an almost physical ache in your heart as you witness her distress. This isn't just sympathy or intellectual understanding of her situation. Your mirror neurons are creating a neural simulation of her emotional and even physical pain, allowing you to feel an echo of her suffering within your own body. When we say we feel someone else's pain, we're not speaking metaphorically. At a neurological level, observing someone else's pain activates many of the same brain regions that would fire if we were experiencing that pain ourselves. Scientists have discovered that when you watch someone else in pain, your anterior cingulate cortex lights up. It's the same region that processes the emotional component of your own pain experiences. Your insula, which helps create the felt sense of physical sensations within your body, also activates when you observe others suffering. It's as if your brain contains a pain simulation system that can recreate the essential elements of suffering. Without the actual physical damage that typically causes pain, this neural mirroring of pain happens automatically and almost instantaneously. You don't consciously decide to feel someone else's pain. It simply happens as a natural consequence of your mirror neuron system responding to the signs of distress you observe. When you see someone wince as they touch a bruise, your pain processing systems activate. When you watch someone receive an injection, your brain responds as if the needle were approaching your own skin. When you observe someone crying from emotional hurt, your brain creates an internal simulation of that emotional anguish. The intensity of this shared pain experience can vary dramatically depending on several factors. Your relationship to the person's suffering plays a crucial role in how strongly your mirror neurons respond to their pain. When you watch a loved one in distress, your pain simulation systems fire much more intensely than when you observe a stranger's suffering. This isn't callousness or lack of compassion. It's an elegant evolutionary design that helps you prioritize your empathic responses toward those who matter most to your survival and well-being. Your own personal history with pain also influences how your mirror neurons respond to others' suffering. If you've experienced a particular type of injury or illness yourself, watching someone else go through the same experience will trigger a much stronger mirror neuron response. Your brain draws on your own memories of pain to create a more vivid and accurate simulation of what the other person might be feeling. A person who has broken a bone will feel a more intense empathic response when watching someone else deal with a fracture than someone who has never experienced that particular type of injury. This personal pain library that your brain maintains serves as a reference system for understanding others' suffering. Each painful experience you've had becomes part of your empathy toolkit, allowing you to better understand and respond to similar pain in others. This is why healthcare workers who have experienced their own share of illness and injury often make particularly compassionate caregivers. Their mirror neuron systems have rich pain experiences to draw from when creating simulations of their patients' suffering. The mirror neuron response to others' pain isn't limited to physical suffering. Emotional pain, heartbreak, grief, disappointment, and psychological distress all trigger similar empathic responses in your brain. When you see someone's face crumple with sadness after receiving bad news, your mirror neurons fire as if you were making that same expression of grief. Your emotional processing centers activate, creating a felt sense of their sorrow within your own heart. This emotional pain sharing can be even more intense than physical pain mirroring, because emotional suffering often involves complex narratives and meanings that your brain can relate to your own experiences. When you watch someone struggle with loss, betrayal, rejection, or failure, mirror neurons don't just simulate their immediate emotional expression. They can trigger memories of your own similar experiences, creating layered empathic responses that combine their current pain with echoes of your own past suffering. The ability to feel others' pain serves crucial social functions that go far beyond simple emotional connection. It motivates helping behavior, driving us to take action to alleviate suffering when we encounter it. When your mirror neurons create an internal simulation of someone else's pain, that simulated pain feels genuinely uncomfortable to you, creating motivation to make it stop. The most direct way to make that empathic pain go away is to help reduce the other person's actual pain. This pain-sharing system also helps us calibrate our responses to others' needs. By feeling an echo of their suffering, we can better understand how much help they need and what kind of support would be most beneficial. The parent who feels their child's disappointment through mirror neuron activation knows exactly how much comfort to offer. The friend who shares in your heartbreak understands the depth of support you need during a difficult time. However, this remarkable capacity to feel others' pain can sometimes become overwhelming, particularly for people with highly sensitive mirror neuron systems. Healthcare workers, therapists, social workers, and others who regularly encounter suffering often report experiencing compassion fatigue or secondary trauma. Their mirror neurons are constantly creating simulations of pain and distress, which can take a genuine emotional and even physical toll over time. Some people seem to be born with more sensitive pain mirroring systems than others. These individuals often describe feeling overwhelmed in hospitals, deeply affected by violent movies, or unable to watch others receive medical procedures without feeling faint or nauseous themselves. Their mirror neurons create such vivid simulations of others' pain that the experience becomes genuinely distressing for them. Understanding this biological basis of pain sharing helps explain why some people are naturally drawn to helping professions, while others avoid situations involving suffering. It's not that some people care more than others. It's that some people's mirror neuron systems create more intense simulations of others' pain, making them either more motivated to help or more overwhelmed by exposure to suffering. The development of pain, empathy, through mirror neurons begins very early in life. Even young children show clear signs of distress when they see others in pain, often crying when they see another child hurt, or trying to comfort someone who is upset. This suggests that the capacity to feel others' pain is not learned behavior, but rather an innate feature of how our brains are wired for social connection. As children grow and accumulate their own experiences with pain and suffering, their ability to empathize with others' pain becomes more sophisticated and nuanced. They develop better understanding of different types of pain, more accurate recognition of pain signals in others, and more appropriate responses to different levels and types of suffering. The mirror neuron pain sharing system continues to develop and refine itself throughout life. Cultural factors also influence how we experience and express shared pain. Some cultures encourage open emotional expression and validation of suffering, while others emphasize stoicism and emotional restraint. These cultural differences can affect how mirror neurons respond to others' pain and how comfortable people feel, acknowledging and responding to the empathic pain they experience when witnessing others' suffering. The gender differences often observed in empathic responses may also be related to differences in mirror neuron sensitivity to pain. Research suggests that women tend to show stronger mirror neuron responses to others' pain, which may contribute to observed differences in empathic behavior and helping responses. However, these differences are averages across populations, and there's tremendous individual variation in pain, empathy, regardless of gender. Modern technology and media exposure have created new challenges for our pain mirroring systems. Through television, internet, and social media, we're exposed to far more images and stories of suffering than our ancestors ever encountered. Our mirror neurons respond to these mediated presentations of pain almost as strongly as they respond to directly observed suffering, potentially leading to compassion overload or emotional numbing as protective responses. Learning to manage your empathic responses to others' pain is an important life skill, particularly in our media-saturated world. This doesn't mean becoming callous or uncaring, but rather developing the ability to feel others' pain without becoming overwhelmed by it. Some people find it helpful to practice mindfulness techniques that allow them to acknowledge empathic pain without becoming consumed by it. Others learn to set boundaries around their exposure to suffering, limiting their consumption of distressing news or media. The mirror neuron pain sharing system reminds us that we're not isolated individuals, but rather interconnected beings whose suffering and well-being are intimately linked. When someone around you is in pain, your brain doesn't just recognize their distress from a distance. It creates an internal experience that connects you to their suffering in a direct and immediate way. This biological capacity for shared pain is one of the foundations of human compassion and one of the driving forces behind our impulse to help and heal one another. As you rest tonight, consider the remarkable fact that your brain contains systems specifically designed to help you feel what others feel, to share in their pain and suffering, as well as their joy and happiness. This isn't a burden you have to carry alone. It's a capacity that connects you to the larger human family and reminds you that none of us suffers in complete isolation. Your mirror neurons ensure that when someone is in pain, their pain becomes, in some small way, shared pain, distributed across the network of caring hearts that surround them. Sleep peacefully knowing that your capacity to feel others' pain, while sometimes difficult to bear, is also one of the most beautiful expressions of human connection. It's through this shared suffering that we learn compassion, develop resilience, and discover our profound interconnectedness with all beings who can feel pain and long for relief from suffering. As we continue our gentle exploration through the intricate pathways of human connection, we arrive at perhaps the most beautiful destination of our journey, the realm where feeling becomes action, where empathy transforms into compassion. If mirror neurons help us feel what others feel, then compassion is what happens when that feeling moves us to act, when the internal simulation of another's suffering becomes an irresistible call to help, to heal, to offer comfort in whatever way we can. Imagine walking through your neighborhood on a quiet Sunday morning. The air is crisp and fresh, filled with the sounds of birds singing and leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. As you round a corner, you see an elderly man who has fallen while trying to carry groceries to his car. His face shows pain and embarrassment as he sits on the ground, surrounded by scattered items. In that moment, something profound happens within your brain that goes far beyond simply recognizing his distress. Your mirror neurons immediately fire, creating an internal simulation of his physical discomfort and emotional distress. You feel an echo of his pain in your own body, a sympathetic ache that makes his suffering feel real and immediate to you. But then something even more remarkable occurs. This empathic pain doesn't just remain as a feeling within you. It transforms into motivation, into an urgent desire to help alleviate his suffering. This transformation from feeling to action is the birth of compassion, and it represents one of the most extraordinary achievements of the human brain. The neural pathways that connect mirror neuron empathy to compassionate action involve several brain regions working in elegant coordination. When your mirror neurons create a simulation of someone else's distress, that information travels to your anterior cingulate cortex, which processes the emotional significance of the pain and creates the subjective experience of caring. From there, signals reach your prefrontal cortex, the executive center of your brain that plans and initiates action. Finally, your motor cortex activates to carry out the helping behavior, whether that's rushing to help someone up, offering a comforting word, or simply moving closer to provide support. This neural cascade from empathy to action happens with remarkable speed, often before conscious thought has time to intervene. You don't typically have an internal debate about whether you should help someone in distress. You simply find yourself moving to help them. This automatic, compassionate response suggests that helping others isn't just a learned social behavior or moral choice. It's a fundamental feature of how our brains are wired to respond to suffering. The strength of this compassionate response is influenced by the same factors that affect empathic mirroring. You're more likely to feel moved to help people you're close to, people you identify with, and people whose suffering your mirror neurons simulate most vividly. But compassion can also be triggered by suffering in complete strangers, even in people who are very different from us. This suggests that while the intensity of compassionate responses may vary, the basic capacity for compassion is a universal feature of human nature. Research has shown that people with more active mirror neuron systems tend to engage in more prosocial helping behaviors throughout their lives. They're more likely to volunteer their time for charitable causes, more responsive to requests for help, and more willing to make personal sacrifices to alleviate others' suffering. It's as if their more sensitive empathy systems create stronger motivational signals that drive compassionate action. The development of compassion through mirror neuron activation begins remarkably early in human development. Even toddlers show clear signs of compassionate behavior. It's offering comfort objects to crying babies, trying to help when they see someone struggling, or bringing their parents to help someone who appears to be in distress. These early expressions of compassion suggest that the neural circuits linking empathy to helping behavior are present from very early in life, requiring no special training or education to manifest. As children grow and their mirror neuron systems become more sophisticated, their capacity for compassion becomes more nuanced and appropriate. They learn to recognize different types of suffering and develop more effective ways of offering help. They begin to understand that different people need different kinds of support, and they develop the social skills necessary to offer comfort and assistance in ways that are actually helpful rather than merely well-intentioned. The relationship between mirror neurons and compassion also helps explain why exposure to suffering can sometimes lead to increased helping behavior rather than emotional numbing. When people regularly witness pain and distress, their mirror neuron systems don't necessarily become less sensitive. They often become more skilled at translating empathic feelings into effective, compassionate action. This is why many healthcare workers, despite being constantly exposed to suffering, maintain high levels of compassionate behavior throughout their careers. However, the connection between empathy and compassion isn't always straightforward. Sometimes the pain created by mirror neuron empathy can be so intense that it overwhelms a person's capacity for effective action. When empathic distress becomes too strong, it can actually interfere with helping behavior. As the person becomes focused on managing their own emotional response rather than addressing the other person's needs, learning to regulate empathic responses is therefore crucial for maintaining the ability to act compassionately. The quality of compassionate action that emerges from mirror neuron empathy tends to be remarkably appropriate and well calibrated to the actual needs of the suffering person. Because your brain is creating an internal simulation of their experience, you often have intuitive insight into what kind of help would be most beneficial. The parent whose mirror neurons simulate their child's disappointment knows whether the child needs comfort, encouragement, or simply space to process their feelings. The friend whose empathy system resonates with your grief understands whether you need someone to listen, someone to distract you, or someone to simply sit quietly with you in your sadness. This empathy-driven compassion also tends to be sustainable over time because it's rooted in genuine understanding rather than abstract moral obligation. When you help someone because you truly feel their pain through your mirror neuron system, that helping behavior feels natural and intrinsically rewarding rather than burdensome or dutiful. Your brain's reward systems activate when you successfully alleviate suffering that you've been empathically experiencing, creating positive feedback loops that reinforce compassionate behavior. The mirror neuron compassion system also helps explain why acts of kindness and helping behavior can be contagious within social groups. When you witness someone acting compassionately toward another person, your mirror neurons don't just simulate the helper's actions. They also simulate the positive emotions associated with helping. This can create a cascade effect where compassionate behavior spreads through a community as people's mirror neuron systems resonate with both the suffering of those in need and the satisfaction of those who help. Cultural factors play an important role in shaping how mirror neuron empathy translates into compassionate action. Different societies have different norms about when, how, and toward whom it's appropriate to offer help. Some cultures emphasize collective responsibility and mutual aid, encouraging widespread compassionate responses to suffering. Others prioritize individual autonomy and self-reliance, potentially inhibiting helping behaviors even when empathic responses are strong. These cultural influences can modify the expression of compassion without necessarily changing the underlying empathic capacity. The development of compassion through mirror neuron activation can be enhanced through various practices and experiences. Meditation practices that cultivate loving kindness and compassion have been shown to increase activity in brain regions associated with empathy and prosocial behavior. Exposure to diverse forms of suffering and helping responses can expand a person's repertoire of compassionate actions. Volunteering and service work can strengthen the neural pathways connecting empathy to effective helping behavior. Modern challenges to compassion include the overwhelming amount of suffering we're exposed to through media and technology. Our mirror neuron systems evolved to respond to the suffering of people in our immediate social environment, not to the global cascade of pain and distress that fills our news feeds and social media streams. This constant exposure to distant suffering can lead to compassion fatigue, where the empathy system becomes overwhelmed and less responsive to local needs that we actually have the power to address. Learning to focus compassionate responses on suffering that we can actually help alleviate is an important skill in our interconnected world. This doesn't mean ignoring global suffering, but rather recognizing that our mirror neuron compassion systems work best when directed toward concrete situations, where our actions can make a meaningful difference. The person who burns out trying to feel responsible for all the world's suffering may actually help fewer people than someone who focuses their compassionate energy on their immediate community. The relationship between mirror neurons and compassion also reveals important insights about the nature of altruism and selflessness. When you help someone because your mirror neurons are creating an internal simulation of their pain, are you being altruistic? Or are you simply trying to relieve your own empathic distress? The answer may be that this distinction isn't meaningful at the neurological level. Your mirror neuron system creates a situation where their pain becomes your pain, making the boundary between self and other less clear-cut than we might assume. This blurring of boundaries between self and other through mirror neuron empathy may be one of the biological foundations of our moral intuitions about the importance of reducing suffering and promoting well-being. When someone else's pain becomes your pain through empathic simulation, helping them isn't just an abstract moral good. It's a concrete way of reducing suffering that you're actually experiencing within your own nervous system. The compassion that emerges from mirror neuron empathy also tends to be accompanied by a sense of connection and understanding that goes beyond simple helping behavior. When you act compassionately because you truly feel what someone else is feeling, your helping behavior communicates not just willingness to assist, but genuine understanding and shared experience. This deeper level of connection can be profoundly healing for people who are suffering, as it addresses not just their practical needs, but also their need to feel understood and less alone in their pain. As we rest in contemplation of this remarkable capacity for compassion, consider how extraordinary it is that your brain contains neural circuits specifically designed to transform the suffering of others into motivation for helpful action. Your mirror neurons don't just help you understand what others are feeling. They create the biological foundation for one of humanity's most cherished values, the desire to reduce suffering and promote well-being wherever we encounter it. Sleep peacefully tonight, knowing that you carry within you this profound capacity for compassion, this ability to feel what others feel and be moved to action by their pain. Your mirror neurons are always ready to create bridges, not just of understanding but of caring action, connecting you to others in bonds of mutual support and shared humanity. In a world that can sometimes seem harsh and uncaring, your compassion represents one of evolution's greatest achievements, the creation of beings who are biologically motivated to care for one another's well-being. As we drift deeper into the serene currents of scientific understanding, let's take a moment to marvel at one of the most profound realizations that has emerged from decades of neuroscience research. Empathy isn't just a beautiful human quality or a learned social skill. It's a fundamental feature of our biology. The capacity to understand and share the feelings of others is woven into the very fabric of our nervous systems, coded in our genes, shaped by evolution, and expressed through intricate networks of neurons that connect us to every person we encounter. Picture the vast timeline of human evolution stretching back millions of years through countless generations of our ancestors who lived, loved, struggled, and survived in small social groups scattered across ancient landscapes. In those early communities, the ability to understand what others were feeling wasn't just a nice social grace, it was a matter of life and death. Those who could read the emotions of their group members, who could sense when someone was in distress, who could respond appropriately to the needs of others, were more likely to maintain the social bonds essential for survival in a harsh and unpredictable world. Over millions of years, natural selection gradually favored individuals with more sophisticated empathy systems. Those whose brains were better at creating internal simulations of others' experiences were more successful at forming alliances, raising offspring, and navigating the complex social dynamics that determined who thrived and who perished. Generation by generation, the neural circuits that enable empathy became more refined, more sensitive, and more deeply integrated into the fundamental architecture of the human brain. This evolutionary perspective helps us understand why empathy feels so natural and automatic to us. We don't have to learn to feel what others feel any more than we have to learn to see colors or hear sounds. The capacity for empathy is built into our nervous systems from the moment we're born, ready to activate as soon as we encounter other human beings. When a newborn baby cries in response to hearing another baby cry, they're demonstrating an empathic response that requires no learning, no cultural transmission, and no conscious decision to care about others. The biological basis of empathy extends far beyond just mirror neurons, though these remarkable cells are certainly central to the story. Empathy emerges from the coordinated activity of multiple brain networks, each contributing different elements to our ability to understand and share others' experiences. The limbic system, our brain's emotional processing center, provides the feeling component of empathy, translating neural signals into the actual subjective experience of caring about others. The prefrontal cortex, our brain's executive control center, helps regulate empathic responses and translate empathic feelings into appropriate actions. The neurochemistry of empathy involves a complex symphony of hormones and neurotransmitters that facilitate social bonding and prosocial behavior. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, plays a crucial role in enhancing empathic responses and strengthening social bonds. When you feel deeply connected to someone, when their pain becomes your pain or their joy becomes your joy, oxytocin is likely flooding your brain, creating the neurochemical foundation for that profound sense of connection and shared experience. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation, activates when we successfully help others, or when we witness positive outcomes for people we care about. This creates positive feedback loops that reinforce empathic and compassionate behavior, making us more likely to respond to others' needs in the future. Your brain literally rewards you for caring about others, creating biological incentives for empathy and compassion. Serotonin, which helps regulate mood and social behavior, also plays important roles in empathic responses. People with higher levels of serotonin activity tend to show stronger empathic responses and more prosocial behavior. This may help explain why certain medications that affect serotonin levels can sometimes influence people's capacity for empathy and social connection. The development of empathy throughout the lifespan follows predictable biological patterns that reflect the maturation of different brain systems. In early infancy, empathic responses are primarily automatic and reflexive, mediated by primitive mirror neuron systems that create immediate emotional contagion. Babies cry when they hear other babies cry, not because they understand that another child is in distress, but because their nervous systems automatically mirror the emotional states they observe. As the brain develops through childhood and adolescence, empathic responses become more sophisticated and cognitively controlled. Children learn to distinguish between their own emotions and the emotions of others, develop the ability to take others' perspectives, and gain conscious control over their empathic responses. The prefrontal cortex, which continues developing well into the 20s, plays an increasingly important role in regulating empathy and determining when and how to respond to others' emotional states. The biological basis of empathy also reveals important individual differences that help explain why some people seem naturally more empathic than others. Genetic variations affect the sensitivity of mirror neuron systems, the production of empathy-related neurotransmitters, and the development of brain regions involved in social cognition. Some people are born with nervous systems that create more vivid simulations of others' experiences, while others have empathy systems that are more muted or require more conscious effort to activate. These individual differences in empathic capacity aren't value judgments about people's moral worth or caring nature. Someone with a less sensitive empathy system might still be deeply caring and helpful. They might just rely more on cognitive understanding and conscious decision-making, rather than automatic emotional resonance. Conversely, someone with an extremely sensitive empathy system might sometimes become overwhelmed by others' emotions and need to develop strategies for managing their empathic responses. Hormonal influences on empathy help explain some of the patterns we observe in empathic behavior across different populations. Women, on average, tend to show stronger empathic responses than men, which may be related to differences in hormones like estrogen and testosterone that influence the development and functioning of empathy-related brain systems. However, these are average differences across large populations, and there's tremendous individual variation within each gender. The empathy system is also influenced by stress hormones like cortisol, which can either enhance or impair empathic responses, depending on the context and timing. Moderate levels of stress can sometimes increase empathy by making us more attuned to potential threats and social dynamics, while chronic stress can overwhelm the empathy system and lead to emotional numbing or reduced responsiveness to others' needs. Environmental factors during critical periods of brain development can have lasting effects on the biological foundations of empathy. Children who grow up in warm, responsive environments with caregivers who model empathic behavior tend to develop more robust empathy systems. Those who experience neglect, trauma, or inconsistent caregiving may develop empathy systems that are either hypervigilant and overwhelming or muted and protective. However, the empathy system retains remarkable plasticity throughout life, meaning that empathic capacity can be enhanced through various experiences and practices. Meditation practices focused on loving kindness and compassion have been shown to increase activity and empathy related brain regions and strengthen the neural circuits that connect us to others' experiences. Exposure to diverse perspectives and experiences can expand empathic capacity by giving the brain more templates for understanding different types of human experience. The biological understanding of empathy also sheds light on conditions where empathic responses are altered or impaired. Autism spectrum disorders often involve differences in empathy systems. Though these differences are more complex than simple empathy deficits, many individuals with autism show strong emotional empathy, but may struggle with cognitive empathy, the ability to intellectually understand others' mental states. Others may have the opposite pattern, understanding others' thoughts well, but having difficulty with emotional resonance. Psychopathy involves more severe impairments in empathy systems, particularly in the emotional components of empathy that would normally create caring responses to others' suffering. However, individuals with psychopathic traits may retain cognitive empathy abilities, allowing them to understand what others are thinking and feeling without being emotionally moved by that understanding. Depression can temporarily impair empathy systems by overwhelming them with the person's own emotional pain, making it difficult to resonate with others' experiences. Anxiety can sometimes heighten empathic responses to the point where they become overwhelming and interfere with effective helping behavior. Understanding these conditions through the lens of empathy. Biology helps reduce stigma and guides more effective interventions. The study of empathy's biological basis has also revealed fascinating insights about how our empathy systems respond to different groups of people. We tend to show stronger empathic responses to people we perceive as similar to ourselves, members of our own social groups, and individuals we've had positive interactions with. This in-group bias in empathy likely served important evolutionary functions by prioritizing care and cooperation within cohesive social groups. However, this same system can contribute to prejudice and discrimination when it leads us to feel less empathy for people from different backgrounds or social groups. Understanding the biological basis of these empathy biases is an important step in developing strategies to expand our circle of empathic concern and create more inclusive and compassionate societies. Recent research has also explored how modern technology affects our empathy systems. Digital communication lacks many of the visual and auditory cues that normally trigger empathic responses, potentially leading to reduced empathy in online interactions. However, technology also provides opportunities to connect with people we would never encounter in person and to witness experiences that can expand our empathic understanding. The biological basis of empathy reminds us that our capacity to care about others isn't separate from our physical nature. It's an expression of our physical nature. Every empathic response involves specific patterns of neural firing, particular configurations of brain activity, and precise combinations of neurochemicals working together to create the experience of caring about someone else's well-being. This biological understanding doesn't diminish the beauty or significance of empathy. Rather, it reveals empathy to be one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge, one of creating beings who can live together in harmony and mutual support. The fact that caring for others is encoded in our biology suggests that compassion and connection aren't idealistic aspirations, but fundamental features of human nature. As you rest tonight in the peaceful knowledge of this biological foundation of empathy, consider how remarkable it is that billions of years of evolution have culminated in nervous systems capable of reaching across the boundaries between individual minds to create genuine understanding and shared experience. Your capacity for empathy isn't just something you do, it's something you are, a fundamental expression of your biological nature as a social being designed for connection and caring. Sleep peacefully knowing that every empathic response you experience, every moment of caring about another's well-being, every impulse to help or comfort someone in need, reflects the activity of ancient biological systems that connect you to the deepest currents of human nature and the evolutionary story that has shaped us all into beings capable of profound connection and mutual care. As we settle into this peaceful exploration of human connection, let's turn our attention to the countless moments throughout each day when your mirror neurons spring into action, creating invisible bridges of understanding between you and everyone you encounter. These remarkable cells are constantly at work, so seamlessly integrated into your experience that you rarely notice their profound influence on how you perceive, understand, and respond to the world around you. Tonight, let's slow down and observe the quiet miracle of mirror neurons in the ordinary moments of daily life. Think about the last time you were sitting in a coffee shop, perhaps on a lazy Saturday morning when time seemed to move at a gentler pace. The warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air. Conversations create a soft murmur of human connection, and sunlight streams through the windows, casting dancing patterns on the wooden tables. In this peaceful setting, your mirror neurons are performing an intricate dance of understanding that connects you to every person in that space. It's creating a rich tapestry of shared human experience. You notice a woman at the corner table taking her first sip of coffee. As her face relaxes into an expression of contentment, and she closes her eyes briefly to savor the taste, your mirror neurons fire as if you were making that same expression of satisfaction. For just a moment, your brain creates an internal simulation of that pleasure, allowing you to understand and almost taste her enjoyment of that perfect first sip. This isn't conscious analysis or deliberate attention. It's the automatic responsiveness of your mirror neuron system, creating connection through shared experience. Across the room, you see a man hunched over his laptop, his brow furrowed in concentration as he types rapidly. Your mirror neurons respond to his posture and facial expression, creating an internal simulation of that focused, perhaps slightly stressed state. You might find yourself sitting up a bit straighter, or you might feel a subtle tension in your own shoulders as your body mirrors his concentrated effort. Without realizing it, you're experiencing a shadow of his mental state, your mirror neurons helping you understand his level of engagement and intensity. Near the window, two friends are deep in conversation. You watch as one leans forward with excitement, her eyes bright and animated as she shares what appears to be wonderful news. Her companion's face immediately lights up in response, and you see the way her joy spreads to her friend through the contagious magic of mirror neuron activation. As you observe this exchange, your own mirror neurons are busy creating simulations of both women's emotional states. You might find yourself smiling slightly, feeling a warm glow of sympathetic happiness, even though you have no idea what they're celebrating. These coffee shop observations represent just a tiny fraction of the mirror neuron activity happening in your brain throughout any given day. Every interaction, every observation of human behavior, every moment spent in the presence of others triggers these remarkable cells to create internal simulations that help you navigate the complex social world with intuitive, understanding, and appropriate responses. Consider what happens when you're walking down the street and you see someone stumble slightly on an uneven sidewalk. In the instant you observe their momentary loss of balance, your mirror neurons fire as if you were experiencing that same instability. Your own sense of balance might react. Your muscles might tense slightly. You might even feel a brief moment of that unsettled feeling that comes with unexpected instability. This mirror neuron response helps you instantly understand what the person is experiencing, and might even prepare your own body to offer assistance if needed. When you're in an elevator with strangers, your mirror neurons are constantly processing subtle social cues and helping you calibrate your behavior to the unspoken social dynamics of that shared space. If someone seems anxious or uncomfortable, your mirror neurons detect and simulate their emotional state, influencing your own behavior to be more respectful of their need for space or quiet. If someone appears relaxed and friendly, your mirror neurons might create simulations that make you feel more at ease and open to brief social interaction. The workplace provides countless examples of mirror neurons in action, creating the social glue that helps teams function effectively together. When you're in a meeting and you see a colleague's face light up with understanding as they grasp a new concept, your mirror neurons fire as if you were having that same moment of clarity. This shared simulation of understanding helps create group cohesion and mutual engagement with the material being discussed. Conversely, when you observe a team member looking confused or overwhelmed, your mirror neurons create an internal simulation of their confusion that helps you recognize when someone needs additional explanation or support. You might find yourself naturally slowing down your explanation, offering additional examples, or checking in to see if they have questions, all guided by the empathic understanding created through mirror neuron activation. The mirror neuron system is particularly active and important in intimate relationships, where partners develop exquisitely sensitive attunement to each other's emotional states and needs. When you've been with someone for a long time, your mirror neurons become finely tuned to their specific patterns of expression and behavior. You can often sense your partner's mood from across the room, not through conscious analysis, but through the automatic responsiveness of mirror neurons that have learned to recognize and simulate their particular ways of expressing emotion. This intimate mirror neuron attunement explains why long-term partners often report feeling each other's emotions so strongly. When your loved one is stressed, your mirror neurons create such vivid simulations of their stress that you genuinely feel stressed yourself. When they're happy and relaxed, your mirror neurons generate simulations of contentment that help you share in their positive emotional state. This neurological connection creates a form of emotional intimacy that goes far beyond shared experiences or intellectual understanding. Parenting provides some of the most profound examples of mirror neurons in action. As caregivers develop extraordinarily sensitive empathic connections to their children's internal states, a mother can often sense her baby's needs before the baby even begins to cry, guided by subtle mirror neuron responses to tiny changes in the infant's facial expression, body tension, or breathing patterns. These microsignals trigger empathic simulations that help parents understand and respond to their children's needs with remarkable accuracy and speed. As children grow, parents continue to rely heavily on mirror neuron-based understanding to guide their responses. When you see your child's face fall with disappointment, your mirror neurons create an internal simulation of that emotional state that helps you understand not just that they're disappointed, but how deeply they're feeling it and what kind of response would be most helpful. The parent who can accurately read these mirror neuron signals knows when to offer comfort, when to provide encouragement, and when to simply give space for emotional processing. Mirror neurons also play crucial roles in learning and education, helping students understand not just what teachers are saying, but how they feel about the material they're presenting. When a teacher is genuinely excited about a subject, their enthusiasm creates mirror neuron responses in students that can kindle similar interest and engagement. Conversely, when an instructor seems bored or disengaged, students' mirror neurons pick up on these signals and may respond with their own decreased motivation and attention. The performing arts provide spectacular examples of mirror neurons creating powerful connections between performers and audiences. When an actor portrays deep emotion on stage, audience members' mirror neurons create internal simulations of those emotional states, allowing them to feel what the character is experiencing. This empathic connection is what makes great performances so moving and memorable. As audiences don't just intellectually understand the character's journey, but actually experience echoes of it within their own nervous systems. Musicians rely on mirror neuron connections to create emotional resonance with their audiences. When a violinist plays with passionate intensity, the audience's mirror neurons respond to both the physical movements of playing and the emotional expression conveyed through the music. This creates a shared emotional experience that connects performer and audience in profound ways that go beyond simple auditory appreciation. Athletes demonstrate mirror neurons in action through the way they read and respond to opponents and teammates. A basketball player can anticipate where a teammate will move not just through conscious strategy, but through mirror neuron simulations of their body language and movement patterns. Soccer players develop intuitive understanding of field dynamics through constant mirror neuron processing of multiple players' movements, intentions, and positions. Even watching sports activates mirror neurons in powerful ways, which helps explain why spectators can become so emotionally invested in athletic competitions. When you watch a gymnast performing a difficult routine, your mirror neurons create simulations of their movements and the associated feelings of balance, tension, and control. This empathic connection makes you feel almost as if you're performing alongside them, sharing in their triumphs and disappointments. Healthcare workers develop particularly refined mirror neuron sensitivity that helps them understand patients' pain levels, emotional states, and needs for comfort or support. A skilled nurse can often sense when a patient is struggling not just through obvious signs, but through subtle, mirror neuron responses to micro-expressions and changes in posture or breathing. This empathic attunement guides compassionate care and helps healthcare providers offer exactly the kind of support that patients need most. The service industry relies heavily on mirror neuron-based understanding to create positive customer experiences. A skilled server can read customers' moods and preferences through mirror neuron processing of their body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions. This empathic understanding helps then provide service that feels personally attuned and responsive rather than generic or scripted. Even in digital communication, where visual and auditory cues are limited, mirror neurons find ways to create connection and understanding. When you read an emotional message from a friend, your mirror neurons may respond to the emotional content, as if you were observing their facial expression directly. This helps explain why written communication can sometimes feel almost as emotionally impactful as face-to-face interaction. The mirror neuron system also influences how we respond to art, literature, and other forms of creative expression. When you read a vivid description of a character's experience, your mirror neurons create simulations that help you feel what that character might be feeling. When you look at a painting that captures a particular emotional moment, your mirror neurons respond to the emotional content and help you connect with the artist's intended expression. As you prepare for sleep tonight, take a moment to appreciate the constant, invisible work that your mirror neurons perform throughout each day. From the moment you wake up and see your first human face to the last interaction before you close your eyes, these remarkable cells are creating bridges of understanding that connect you to every person you encounter. They help you navigate social situations with grace, respond to others' needs with appropriate care, and experience the rich emotional tapestry of human life in all its complexity and beauty. Sleep peacefully, knowing that your mirror neurons are one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge of understanding others. They work tirelessly and automatically, requiring no conscious effort from you. Yet they profoundly shape every social interaction and every moment of connection you experience. In the gentle rhythm of daily life, your mirror neurons are constantly weaving the threads that bind us all together in the magnificent tapestry of human understanding and shared experience. As we drift deeper into our gentle exploration of human connection, it's time to acknowledge a profound truth about the mirror neuron system. Despite its remarkable capabilities, it has important limitations that shape how we understand and connect with others. Like any biological system, mirror neurons are not perfect universal translators of human experience. Understanding these limitations helps us appreciate both the extraordinary gifts and the inherent challenges of empathic connection, reminding us that the journey toward understanding others is complex, nuanced, and sometimes incomplete. Imagine sitting quietly in a park on a peaceful afternoon, watching the world unfold around you with the calm observation that comes from having nowhere urgent to be. Notice a young person sitting alone on a bench nearby, their head down, shoulders slightly hunched. Your mirror neurons immediately begin their familiar dance, creating an internal simulation of their posture and attempting to understand their emotional state. You might initially assume they're feeling sad, lonely, or troubled, your empathy system responding to what appears to be distress. But then the person looks up, and you see their face lit with concentration and satisfaction as they read something on their phone. Perhaps a fascinating article or a message from someone they care about. Your initial mirror neuron interpretation was incomplete, based only on partial information about their posture, without access to the full context of their internal experience. This moment illustrates one of the fundamental limitations of mirror neurons. They can only work with the information that's observable, and human experience is often far richer and more complex than what shows on the surface. Mirror neurons excel at creating simulations based on external cues, facial expressions, body language, vocalizations, and movements. But they cannot directly access the internal landscape of another person's thoughts, memories, intentions, or the full context of their emotional experience. When you see someone crying, your mirror neurons can create a simulation of the physical act of crying and the general emotional state associated with tears. But they cannot tell you whether those tears come from grief, joy, frustration, relief, or any number of other emotional experiences that might produce the same physical expression. This limitation becomes particularly important when we consider cultural differences in emotional expression. Mirror neurons develop their response patterns based on the emotional expressions we're exposed to throughout our lives. It's primarily within our own cultural context. Someone who grows up in a culture that encourages open emotional expression will develop mirror neuron responses calibrated to that style of communication. But when they encounter someone from a culture that values emotional restraint or expresses emotions differently, their mirror neuron system might misinterpret or completely miss important emotional cues. For example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is a sign of respect and engagement, while in others, it might be considered rude or aggressive. A person whose mirror neurons are calibrated to one cultural norm might completely misread the intentions and emotional state of someone operating according to different cultural rules. The mirror neuron system, for all its sophistication, is not immune to cultural bias and misunderstanding. Individual differences in emotional expression create another layer of complexity that can challenge mirror neuron accuracy. Some people are naturally more emotionally expressive, wearing their hearts on their sleeves and providing rich material for mirror neuron simulation. Others are more reserved or have learned to mask their emotions, giving mirror neurons fewer or more ambiguous cues to work with. A person who rarely shows their emotions externally might be experiencing intense feelings that remain invisible to others' mirror neuron systems. Neurodevelopmental differences can also affect how mirror neurons function, both in terms of generating signals and interpreting them. Research suggests that individuals on the autism spectrum may have differences in their mirror neuron systems that affect their ability to automatically read and respond to social and emotional cues. This doesn't mean they lack empathy or caring, but rather that they might need to rely more on conscious, analytical processes to understand what others are feeling and thinking. Some individuals with autism report that they have to intellectually decode social situations that others seem to understand intuitively. They might need to consciously think through facial expressions, body language, and social context to arrive at understanding that typically developing individuals reach automatically through mirror neuron processing. This highlights how mirror neurons, when they function differently, can create real challenges in social understanding and connection. The mirror neuron system can also be affected by mental health conditions in ways that alter empathic responses. Depression, for instance, can dampen mirror neuron responsiveness, making it harder for someone to feel connected to others' emotional experiences. When you're struggling with depression, your own emotional pain might be so overwhelming that your empathy system becomes less responsive to others' feelings. Not because you care less, but because your emotional processing capacity is already overwhelmed. Anxiety can have the opposite effect, sometimes making mirror neuron responses hyperactive and overwhelming. Someone with anxiety might find themselves absorbing and amplifying every emotional signal they encounter, creating empathic responses that are so intense they become difficult to manage. They might feel others' emotions so strongly that it becomes hard to distinguish between their own feelings and the feelings they're picking up from others. Trauma can also significantly impact mirror neuron functioning, sometimes leading to protective emotional numbing that reduces empathic responsiveness. Or conversely, too hypervigilant empathic responses that make social situations feel overwhelming and unpredictable. Understanding these trauma-related changes in empathy helps explain why some people who have experienced significant hurt might struggle with social connection. Not due to lack of caring, but due to protective adaptations in their empathy systems. The mirror neuron system also has limitations in processing complex or mixed emotions. Human emotional experience is often ambivalent, involving multiple conflicting feelings simultaneously. Someone might feel simultaneously excited and nervous about a new opportunity, or happy and sad about a life transition. Mirror neurons, which tend to create simulations based on the most prominent emotional signals, might miss this emotional complexity and provide oversimplified understanding of what someone is actually experiencing. Age-related changes can also affect mirror neuron functioning throughout the lifespan. Very young children have active mirror neuron systems, but lack the cognitive sophistication to interpret, understand the simulations their neurons create. An infant might mirror distress they observe in others without understanding what distress means or how to respond appropriately. At the other end of the lifespan, aging can sometimes affect the sensitivity of mirror neuron responses, though this varies greatly among individuals. The mirror neuron system can be overwhelmed by too much emotional input, leading to empathic fatigue or emotional burnout. Healthcare workers, therapists, teachers, and others who regularly encounter intense emotions in their work sometimes report feeling emotionally drained or numb. Their mirror neuron systems, constantly creating simulations of distress, pain, and suffering, can become overloaded and less responsive as a protective mechanism. Technology and modern media present new challenges for mirror neuron systems that evolve to process direct, in-person social interactions. When we watch emotionally intense content on screens, our mirror neurons respond almost as if we were witnessing real events. But without the social context and reciprocal interaction that normally accompanies empathic responses, this can lead to emotional exhaustion from processing large amounts of vicarious suffering without the ability to take meaningful helping action. The speed and intensity of modern information flow can also overwhelm empathy systems. We're exposed to more stories of human suffering and joy in a single day than our ancestors might have encountered in months or years. Our mirror neurons respond to each story, each image, each emotional appeal, but our capacity for sustained empathic engagement is limited. This can lead to compassion fatigue or emotional numbing as protective responses to empathic overload. Mirror neurons also have difficulty processing experiences that are completely outside our own range of understanding. If you've never experienced a particular type of pain, loss, or joy, your mirror neurons have limited material to draw from when trying to simulate someone else's experience of that same situation. This limitation highlights the importance of diverse life experiences in developing empathic understanding, and the humility to recognize when our empathic simulations might be incomplete or inaccurate. The mirror neuron system can sometimes lead to false confidence in our understanding of others. Because empathic responses feel so immediate and convincing, we might assume we understand what someone is feeling, when our mirror neuron simulations are actually based on incomplete information or our own projections. This can lead to well-intentioned but misguided attempts to help or comfort someone based on what we think they need rather than what they actually need. Physical limitations can also affect mirror neuron processing. People with visual impairments might rely more heavily on auditory cues for empathic understanding, while those with hearing difficulties might depend more on visual signals. These adaptations show the flexibility of empathy systems but also highlight how sensory limitations can affect the completeness of empathic understanding. Despite these important limitations, understanding the boundaries of mirror neuron functioning doesn't diminish their remarkable capabilities. Rather, it helps us use our empathy systems more wisely and effectively. Recognizing when our empathic understanding might be incomplete encourages us to ask questions, seek clarification, and remain humble about our ability to fully understand others' experiences. These limitations also remind us of the importance of direct communication in relationships. While mirror neurons provide valuable insight into others' emotional states, they cannot replace the need for honest, open conversation about feelings, needs, and experiences. The most accurate understanding of what someone is feeling often comes from combining mirror neuron-based empathic sensing with direct communication and genuine curiosity about their inner experience. Understanding the limits of mirror neurons also helps us be more compassionate toward ourselves and others when empathic understanding falls short. It's natural and normal for empathy to sometimes miss the mark, to misread situations, or to feel overwhelmed by emotional complexity. These limitations aren't failures of caring or connection. They're simply inherent features of how empathy systems work within the constraints of biology and human psychology. As you rest tonight in the gentle understanding of both the gifts and limitations of empathy, consider how this knowledge might actually enhance your connections with others. Knowing that empathic understanding is sometimes incomplete can make you more curious about others' experiences, more willing to ask questions, and more humble about assuming you know what others are feeling. It can make you more patient with misunderstandings and more appreciative of moments when empathic connection does create genuine understanding. Sleep peacefully, knowing that even with their limitations, your mirror neurons represent one of evolution's most remarkable achievements in creating connection between minds. They may not be perfect, but they provide a profound foundation for understanding, caring, and connecting with others that makes human relationships possible and meaningful. In accepting both their gifts and their limits, we find a more realistic and ultimately more compassionate approach to the beautiful, complex challenge of understanding one another. As we near the end of our gentle journey through the landscape of human connection, let's pause to reflect on the profound and pervasive ways that mirror neurons shape every aspect of our daily experience. These remarkable cells don't just influence our understanding of others. They weave themselves into the very fabric of how we perceive ourselves, navigate relationships, learn and grow, create and appreciate art, and find meaning in the shared experience of being human. Tonight, as we drift through this contemplation, we'll discover how mirror neurons touch every corner of our lives, often in ways so subtle and automatic that we rarely notice their profound influence. Think about the moment you wake up each morning and see the first human face of the day. Perhaps your partner stirring beside you, as a family member at the breakfast table, or even a stranger passing by your window. In that initial encounter, your mirror neurons immediately spring to life, reading their expression, sensing their mood, and beginning the complex dance of social attunement that will continue throughout your day. Before you've even had your first cup of coffee, your empathy system is already working to connect you to the emotional landscape of those around you. This morning attunement sets the tone for how you'll move through your day, influencing your own emotional state through the constant mirroring of others' feelings and expressions. If the people around you seem relaxed and content, your mirror neurons create simulations of that peaceful state, making you more likely to feel calm and centered yourself. If you encounter stress, anxiety, or tension in others, your empathy system responds accordingly, potentially affecting your own stress levels and emotional equilibrium. Consider how mirror neurons shape your most intimate relationships, creating bonds that go far deeper than shared interests, common goals, or even conscious choice. When you love someone deeply, your mirror neuron system becomes exquisitely attuned to their emotional states, their patterns of expression, and their unique ways of moving through the world. You develop an almost telepathic ability to sense their moods, anticipate their needs, and respond to subtle changes in their emotional weather before they even express what they're feeling. This empathic attunement in close relationships creates a form of emotional intimacy that words alone cannot capture. When your partner is happy, your mirror neurons help you feel genuinely happy for and with them, not just intellectually pleased about their good fortune. When they're struggling, your empathy system creates such vivid simulations of their distress that supporting them feels as natural and urgent as caring for your own well-being. This neurological sharing of experience helps explain why healthy relationships can feel so nourishing and why the loss of close connections can be so devastating. Mirror neurons also profoundly influence how you relate to your children, creating the biological foundation for the deep empathic bonds that make effective parenting possible. From the moment you first hold your baby, your mirror neuron system begins learning to read their unique expressions, movements, and sounds. Over time, you develop an almost supernatural ability to understand their needs, often knowing what they require before they can articulate it themselves. This empathic connection guides countless parenting decisions, from knowing when a crying infant needs comfort versus space, to sensing when an older child is struggling with something they haven't yet shared. The parent-child mirror neuron bond helps create the secure attachment relationships that form the foundation for healthy emotional development and lifelong well-being. In your friendships, mirror neurons create the invisible threads that bind you to the people you choose to share your life with. When you spend time with friends, your empathy systems are constantly synchronizing, creating shared emotional experiences that deepen your connections. The laughter that spreads through a group, the collective excitement when sharing good news, the way sadness feels more bearable when experienced with caring friends, all of these relationship-enhancing experiences emerge from the mirror neuron networks that connect you to those you care about. Your professional life is also profoundly shaped by mirror neuron activity, though you might not always be aware of this influence. In workplace interactions, your empathy system is constantly reading colleagues' emotional states, helping you navigate office dynamics, understand unspoken tensions, and respond appropriately to different personalities and communication styles. The boss whose enthusiasm is infectious, the coworker whose stress seems to spread through the office, the team meeting where everyone's energy aligns toward a common goal. All of these workplace phenomena involve mirror neuron synchronization, creating shared emotional experiences. Leadership effectiveness often depends heavily on mirror neuron-based emotional intelligence. Great leaders seem to have an intuitive understanding of their team's emotional landscape, knowing when to inspire, when to comfort, when to challenge, and when to simply listen. This empathic attunement, mediated by sensitive mirror neuron systems, allows effective leaders to respond to their team's needs in ways that feel personally meaningful and appropriately timed. The learning process itself is profoundly influenced by mirror neurons, particularly in educational settings where human connection plays a crucial role in motivation and engagement. When you have a teacher who is genuinely passionate about their subject, your mirror neurons respond to their enthusiasm, creating simulations of excitement and curiosity that can kindle your own interest in the material. Conversely, when an instructor seems bored or disengaged, your empathy system picks up on these signals and may respond with decreased motivation and attention. This mirror neuron-based learning extends far beyond formal education into every skill you acquire through watching and imitating others. Whether you're learning to cook by watching a chef work with focused intensity, developing athletic skills by observing accomplished athletes, or acquiring social graces by mirroring the behavior of people you admire, your mirror neuron system is constantly creating internal simulations that help you understand not just what to do, but how it feels to do it well. Creative expression and artistic appreciation are also deeply influenced by mirror neuron activity. When you're moved by a piece of music, your empathy system is responding not just to the sounds themselves, but to the emotional expression of the performer. Your mirror neurons create simulations of the passion, skill, and emotional investment that went into the performance, allowing you to feel connected to the artist's experience across time and space. Visual art affects you through similar mirror neuron processes. When you look at a painting that captures a particular emotional moment, Your empathy system responds to the emotional content, creating internal simulations that help you connect with what the artist was feeling or trying to convey. This empathic connection to artistic expression helps explain why great art can feel so personally meaningful, even when it depicts experiences far removed from your own life. Your own creative endeavors are influenced by mirror neurons as well. When you write, paint, play music, or engage in any form of creative expression, you're often drawing on your accumulated store of empathic experiences. The countless mirror neuron simulations you've created throughout your life by observing and connecting with others. Your creativity becomes a way of sharing these internal experiences with others, creating new opportunities for empathic connection and understanding. Even your relationship with yourself is influenced by mirror neuron activity, particularly through the social feedback you receive from others. When people respond to you with warmth and acceptance, your mirror neurons help you internalize those positive responses, contributing to your sense of self-worth and belonging. When you encounter criticism or rejection, your empathy system may create simulations of those negative experiences that affect how you feel about yourself. This suggests that the people you surround yourself with don't just influence your external circumstances. They literally shape your internal experience through the constant mirror neuron mediated exchange of emotional states and responses. Choosing to spend time with people who bring out your best qualities and make you feel valued and understood becomes not just a lifestyle preference, but a form of neurological self-care. Mirror neurons also influence your moral and ethical intuitions, helping create the empathic foundation for caring about others' well-being. When you witness suffering, your empathy system creates internal simulations that make that suffering feel real and important to you. When you see someone flourishing, your mirror neurons help you genuinely celebrate their success, rather than viewing it as an abstract good. This empathic connection to others' experiences forms the emotional foundation for moral behavior and ethical decision-making. Your capacity for forgiveness is also mediated by mirror neuron activity when someone has hurt you, but later shows genuine remorse. Your empathy system can create simulations of their regret and emotional pain that help you understand their experience and potentially move toward forgiveness. This doesn't mean mirror neurons compel forgiveness, but they can provide the empathic understanding that makes forgiveness possible when you choose to pursue it. The way you experience community and belonging is profoundly shaped by mirror neuron connections that bind you to groups of people who share your values, interests, or experiences. The sense of solidarity you might feel at a concert where everyone is moved by the same music, the connection you experience in a religious service where collective emotions run deep, the team spirit that emerges in group efforts toward common goals. All of these community-building experiences involve mirror neuron synchronization, creating shared emotional states. Even your relationship with strangers is influenced by mirror neuron activity that creates instant, often unconscious assessments of safety, friendliness, and social connection. The stranger whose smile feels genuinely warm. The person whose body language suggests they might be struggling with something difficult. The individual whose energy seems to complement your own. All of these social impressions emerge from rapid mirror neuron processing that helps you navigate social environments with intuitive understanding. Your mirror neurons also influence how you experience narrative and storytelling. Whether through books, movies, personal conversations, or your own internal stories about your life, when you become absorbed in a compelling story, your empathy system creates simulations of the characters, experiences that make their fictional struggles and triumphs feel emotionally real. This capacity for narrative empathy helps explain why stories can be so powerful in shaping our understanding of ourselves and others. The cumulative effect of all this mirror neuron activity throughout your life is the creation of a rich internal library of empathic experiences that forms much of what we might call wisdom or emotional intelligence. Every empathic connection you've made, every emotion you've shared, every moment of understanding you've achieved with another person becomes part of your capacity for future empathy and connection. As you prepare for sleep tonight, take a moment to appreciate the quiet miracle of how mirror neurons have shaped your day and continue to shape your life. From the first face you saw this morning to the last interaction before closing your eyes, these remarkable cells have been working to connect you to others, to help you understand and be understood, to create the empathic bridges that make human relationships possible and meaningful. Sleep peacefully, knowing that your mirror neurons are always working to weave you into the larger tapestry of human experience. Ensuring that you never face the world completely alone, through the constant invisible work of empathic connection, you remain always and forever part of the magnificent complex. It's a beautiful web of human understanding and care that connects all of us across every boundary of difference and distance. As we approach the gentle conclusion of our journey through the remarkable world of mirror neurons, let's turn our gaze toward the horizon of discovery, where scientists continue to unravel the mysteries of human connection and empathy. Like explorers standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted territory. Researchers today are just beginning to understand the full implications of these extraordinary cells and their role in shaping who we are as social beings. Tonight, as we drift through contemplation of what lies ahead, we'll explore the exciting possibilities that await us in the continuing study of these neural bridges between minds. Picture a research laboratory in the near future, where advanced brain imaging technology allows scientists to observe mirror neuron activity with unprecedented clarity and precision. Imagine being able to watch in real time as these empathy cells fire in response to different types of social interactions, tracking the intricate patterns of neural communication that create understanding between people. This level of detailed observation, which is already beginning to emerge through sophisticated neuroimaging techniques, promises to reveal secrets about human connection that we've only begun to glimpse. One of the most promising frontiers in mirror neuron research involves understanding how these systems develop throughout the lifespan and how they might be enhanced or restored when they're not functioning optimally. Scientists are investigating whether targeted interventions, perhaps involving specialized training, meditation practices, or even technological assistance, could help people with empathy difficulties develop stronger mirror neuron responses. This research holds particular promise for individuals on the autism spectrum, offering hope for new approaches to supporting social connection and understanding. Imagine therapeutic programs designed around enhancing mirror neuron function, where people practice observing and mimicking emotional expressions in carefully structured environments that allow their empathy systems to gradually become more sensitive and responsive. These interventions might combine traditional behavioral approaches with new understanding of the neurological foundations of empathy, creating more effective and personalized treatments for social communication challenges. The field of education is also likely to be transformed by advancing mirror neuron research. As we better understand how empathic connection facilitates learning, teachers and educational designers may develop new approaches that deliberately cultivate mirror neuron engagement to enhance student motivation and comprehension. Picture classrooms designed not just for information transfer but for empathic resonance, where the emotional connection between teacher and students becomes a deliberate tool for educational effectiveness. Virtual and augmented reality technologies present fascinating possibilities for mirror neuron research and application. Scientists are beginning to explore how these immersive technologies might be used to create empathy training experiences, allowing people to quite literally see the world through someone else's eyes. Imagine virtual reality programs that help healthcare workers better understand patient experiences, or empathy training simulations that help people develop greater sensitivity to the perspectives of those from different cultural backgrounds. These technologies might also offer new therapeutic possibilities for conditions that affect empathy and social connection. Virtual reality environments could provide safe, controlled spaces for people to practice social interactions and develop mirror neuron responses without the anxiety or overwhelm that might occur in real-world situations. The ability to replay, slow down, or modify social scenarios could create unprecedented opportunities for empathy skill development. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning are opening up entirely new questions about the nature of empathy and mirror neuron function. As we develop more sophisticated AI systems, researchers are exploring whether artificial beings might be designed to recognize and respond to human emotions in ways that trigger our mirror neuron systems. This research could lead to AI companions or therapeutic assistants that feel genuinely empathic and understanding, even though their responses emerge from algorithms rather than biological empathy systems. Conversely, studying mirror neurons may help us create AI systems that can better understand and predict human behavior by modeling the empathic processes that guide so much of our social interaction. These developments could lead to more intuitive human-computer interfaces and AI systems that can respond to our emotional states with appropriate sensitivity and timing. The genetics of empathy represent another exciting frontier in mirror neuron research. Scientists are identifying specific genes that influence the development and functioning of empathy systems, opening up possibilities for understanding why some people seem naturally more empathic than others. This genetic research doesn't suggest that empathy is fixed or predetermined, but rather helps us understand the biological foundations that can then be influenced through environment, experience, and deliberate practice. Future genetic research might also help us understand how empathy systems evolved and why they vary across different populations and cultures. This evolutionary perspective could provide insights into the adaptive advantages of different types of empathic responses and help us appreciate the full range of human empathic diversity as beneficial variations rather than deficits or disorders. Neuroscience technology continues to advance at a remarkable pace. In future, brain imaging techniques may allow us to observe mirror neuron activity with even greater precision and in more naturalistic settings. Current research often requires people to lie still in brain scanners, limiting the types of social interactions that can be studied. New portable brain monitoring technologies may soon allow researchers to study mirror neuron function during real-world social interactions, providing much richer understanding of how these systems work in natural environments. The study of mirror neurons across different cultures promises to reveal fascinating insights about how empathy systems adapt to different social environments and communication styles. As researchers study mirror neuron function in diverse populations around the world, we're likely to discover both universal patterns of empathic response and interesting cultural variations that reflect different approaches to emotional expression and social connection. This cross-cultural research could help us develop more inclusive and culturally sensitive approaches to understanding and supporting empathy. Rather than assuming that one pattern of mirror neuron function is normal or optimal, we might learn to appreciate the beautiful diversity of human empathic expression and develop interventions that work within rather than against cultural differences in emotional communication. The intersection of mirror neuron research with studies of consciousness and self-awareness represents another intriguing frontier. Scientists are exploring how the ability to understand others' mental states through empathic simulation relates to our understanding of our own consciousness and internal experience. This research touches on some of the deepest questions in neuroscience about the nature of self-awareness and the relationship between mind and brain. Future research may reveal that mirror neurons play important roles not just in understanding others, but in developing and maintaining our sense of self. The constant empathic feedback we receive from others through mirror neuron-mediated interactions may be crucial for healthy self-concept development and emotional regulation throughout life. Clinical applications of mirror neuron research continue to expand as scientists explore connections between empathy system function and various mental health conditions. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other psychological challenges often involve difficulties with social connection and emotional regulation that may be related to mirror neuron function. Future therapeutic approaches might specifically target empathy systems as a way of improving overall mental health and well-being. Imagine personalized mental health treatments that begin with detailed assessment of individual mirror neuron function and then provide targeted interventions designed to enhance empathic connection and social attunement. These approaches might combine traditional psychotherapy with new techniques, specifically designed to strengthen the neurological foundations of empathy and social bonding. The study of mirror neurons in aging populations represents another important area of future research. As our population ages, understanding how empathy systems change over time and how they might be supported in later life becomes increasingly important. Research might reveal ways to maintain empathic sensitivity and social connection throughout the aging process, potentially improving quality of life and reducing social isolation among older adults. Future mirror neuron research may also explore the relationship between empathy and physical health. Growing evidence suggests that social connection and empathic relationships have profound effects on immune function, stress response, and overall physical well-being. Understanding the biological mechanisms behind these connections could lead to new approaches to healthcare that recognize empathy and social connection as vital components of physical health? The field of mirror neuron research is also likely to contribute to our understanding of collective human behaviors. From the spread of emotions through crowds to the dynamics of social movements and cultural change, by studying how empathic responses propagate through social networks, researchers might develop better understanding of phenomena like viral empathy, where caring responses to distant suffering spread rapidly through communities connected by technology and media. This research could inform approaches to building more compassionate societies and addressing global challenges that require collective empathic response. Understanding how mirror neuron systems can be activated and coordinated across large groups might help us develop more effective strategies for motivating cooperative behavior and mutual aid in response to shared challenges. As brain-computer interface technologies continue to advance, future researchers might explore whether direct technological augmentation of mirror neuron systems could enhance empathic connection and understanding. While such possibilities remain largely in the realm of science fiction, the rapid pace of neurotechnology development suggests that direct neural enhancement of empathy might someday become possible. However, such developments would raise profound ethical questions about the nature of authentic empathy and the desirability of technologically modifying fundamental aspects of human nature. These considerations remind us that mirror neuron research, like all scientific advancement, must be guided by careful ethical reflection about how new knowledge should be applied. The integration of mirror neuron research with other fields like philosophy, anthropology, and sociology promises to enrich our understanding of empathy as both a biological phenomenon and a cultural practice. This interdisciplinary approach may help us appreciate empathy as a complex interaction between our evolutionary heritage, our neurological endowment, our cultural learning, and our personal choices about how to engage with others. As we look toward the future of mirror neuron research, we can expect continued revelations about the biological foundations of our most treasured human qualities: compassion, understanding, connection, and care. Each new discovery adds to our appreciation of the remarkable evolutionary achievement represented by our capacity for empathy and our deep neurological commitment to understanding and supporting one another. Sleep peacefully tonight, knowing that scientists around the world continue to explore the mysteries of human connection, working to understand ever more deeply how our brains create the bridges of empathy that bind us together. Their research promises not just academic knowledge, but practical insights that could enhance our capacity for understanding, improve our ability to help those who struggle with social connection, and deepen our appreciation for the biological foundations of love, compassion, and human community. The future of mirror neuron research holds the promise of a world where we understand empathy not as a mysterious or optional human quality, but as a fundamental biological capacity that can be nurtured, supported, and celebrated as one of evolution's greatest gifts to our species. In this future understanding, our capacity for empathic connection becomes not just a beautiful aspect of human experience, but a vital resource for creating a more compassionate and connected world. As we reach the gentle end of our journey through the remarkable world of mirror neurons, let's pause together in this quiet moment before sleep and reflect on the profound story we've discovered. Tonight, we've traveled through the intricate landscape of human connection, exploring how billions of years of evolution have culminated in brains that are exquisitely designed not just for individual survival, but for understanding, caring for, and connecting with one another in ways that transcend the boundaries between separate minds. Think about where you are right now as you listen to these words. Perhaps you're lying in bed, surrounded by the familiar comfort of your own space, preparing to drift into the peaceful realm of sleep. Or maybe you're in a chair by a window, watching the gentle play of moonlight or streetlights painting patterns in the darkness. Wherever you are, take a moment to appreciate the remarkable fact that even in this moment of solitude, you carry within you the capacity for profound connection with every human being you might ever encounter. Your mirror neurons are resting now, but they're always ready to spring into action, to create those invisible bridges of understanding that connect your inner experience to the inner experiences of others. These extraordinary cells don't sleep, they don't take vacations, and they don't require your conscious permission to do their work. They're simply there, woven into the very fabric of your being, ready to help you feel what others feel, understand what others experience, and respond with the kind of caring that makes human life not just bearable but beautiful. We've discovered together that empathy isn't just a nice human quality or a moral choice we make. It's a fundamental feature of our biology, encoded in our genes, shaped by millions of years of evolution, and expressed through neural networks, so sophisticated that science is only beginning to understand their full complexity and elegance. When you feel moved by someone else's joy, when you wince at another's pain, when you find yourself caring about the well-being of people you've never met, you're experiencing the profound expression of evolutionary processes that have shaped you into a being capable of transcending the boundaries of individual consciousness. This understanding transforms how we might think about what it means to be human. We're not isolated individuals struggling alone through an indifferent universe. We're interconnected beings whose very neural architecture is designed for connection, understanding, and mutual care. The person you comforted today, the stranger whose smile brightened your morning, the friend whose laughter lifted your spirits, all of these moments of connection were made possible by the quiet miracle of mirror neurons, creating bridges between minds that would otherwise remain forever separate. Perhaps most remarkably, this capacity for empathic connection requires no special training, no advanced education, and no conscious effort on your part. You were born with these systems already in place, ready to begin the lifelong work of understanding and connecting with others. From your very first interactions as an infant, your mirror neurons were firing, learning, adapting, and helping you navigate the complex social world with an intuitive understanding that adults often marvel at, but rarely fully appreciate. As we've explored together, this empathic capacity comes with both extraordinary gifts and important limitations. Your mirror neurons can create profound understanding and connection, but they can also be overwhelmed, misled, or challenged by the complexity of human experience. Understanding these limitations doesn't diminish the miracle of empathy. Rather, it helps us approach our connections with others with appropriate humility, curiosity, and appreciation for both what we can understand and what might remain mysterious. The research into mirror neurons and empathy continues to reveal new depths of understanding about the biological foundations of compassion, connection, and care. Future discoveries promise to enhance our ability to support those who struggle with social connection, improve our approaches to education and healing, deepen our appreciation for the remarkable achievement that empathy represents in the story of human evolution. But beyond all the scientific discoveries and future possibilities, perhaps the most important insight we can take from our exploration of mirror neurons is a renewed appreciation for the profound significance of every moment of human connection in our daily lives. Every smile you share, every moment of understanding you achieve with another person, every instant of empathic resonance you experience, these aren't just pleasant social interactions, they're expressions of one of the most sophisticated and beautiful systems that evolution has ever created. When you comfort someone who's suffering, you're not just being kind, you're allowing your mirror neurons to create a neurological bridge that genuinely connects your experience to theirs, making their pain feel real and important to you in ways that motivate genuine care and appropriate action. When you celebrate someone else's happiness, your empathy system creates simulations of their joy that allow you to share in their good fortune as if it were your own, creating bonds of connection that enrich both of your lives. This biological foundation of empathy suggests that caring for others isn't separate from caring for yourself, because at the neurological level, the boundaries between self and other become beautifully blurred through the constant activity of mirror neurons creating shared experiences. When you help others feel better, you're quite literally helping your own empathy system feel better as well. When you create conditions that support others' well-being, you're creating conditions that support your own neurological health and social fulfillment. As you prepare to enter the peaceful realm of sleep, take with you the knowledge that you're never truly alone, even in your most solitary moments. You carry within you the accumulated empathic experiences of every connection you've ever made. Every moment of understanding you've achieved, every instance of caring you've shared with others, these experiences become part of who you are, part of your capacity for future connection, part of your contribution to the great web of empathy that connects all human beings across every boundary of difference and distance. Your mirror neurons ensure that every person you encounter leaves some small trace of their experience within your own neural networks, just as your presence creates echoes within their empathy systems. We're all constantly influencing each other, sharing emotions, creating understanding. and building the invisible networks of connection that make human society not just possible, but meaningful and fulfilling. Rest peacefully tonight in the knowledge that tomorrow will bring new opportunities for connection. New moments when your mirror neurons will spring into action to create understanding between you and others. New chances to experience the quiet miracle of empathy that makes life richer, relationships deeper, and existence itself more beautiful. Every day offers countless opportunities to both give and receive the gift of empathic understanding. To both comfort others and be comforted yourself. To both offer care and receive care through the magnificent biological systems that connect us all. Sleep well, knowing that in a world that can sometimes feel harsh or divided, you carry within you one of the most powerful forces for healing. Connection and love that exists in the universe. Your capacity for empathy. Mediated by mirror neurons that work tirelessly to remind you that we're all part of one magnificent, interconnected human family. Sweet dreams, and may your rest be filled with the peaceful knowledge that you're surrounded always by the invisible. Threads of empathic connection that bind us all together in the beautiful, complex, and endlessly meaningful tapestry of shared human experience.